what we vocalize and we express the frustration around something that we do not have yet, or we don't have enough this. No to something else, or saying no to unhealthy distraction because you realigned what it is, what my focus is. What gets scheduled gets done, and where your attention goes, energy flows, results show. Because where attention goes, energy flows, results start to show. When you actually look at the value of which you're actually bringing, then the perception of the value of that task also increases. And this is the thing where I think too many of our members, and even probably future listeners, are really holding on to, is the other combinations where it's not important that it's done by us, but yet it's still in the calendar.
Show me your calendar and I will show you your priorities. Let's dive in. Hey guys, Tristan Bond here, founder and CEO of Practice Acceleration. Welcome to the Practice Acceleration podcast. And today I'm joined by David MacDonald, our GM and head of coaching. David, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Mate, I'm excited to have you.
Yes, glad to be here.
New jacket too.
Again, we got another jacket. It's always a new time. And coffee.
Oh,
this time, because we're talking about priorities.
That's right. And coffee's a priority.
Coffee is a priority. And so today we're going to have a chat and we're about priorities.
Did you have that in your calendar? The coffee in your calendar? So we said, like, show me your priorities. Show me your calendar and I'll show you your priorities.
Absolutely. Well, in the calendar today, it was coffee chat with Tristan.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Let's dive in. So the title of today's show is Show Me Your Calendar and I'll show you your priorities. Speak to that.
Love this topic.
Me too.
Interesting so much. We have, every single day we deal with, members, successful, not yet successful.
Future successful.
And it's so interesting because one of the things that I love diving into is just even the human behavior and the idea of what people's experiences and what they're languaging and what they're voicing to us.
Yes.
I don't have, Dave, I wish I had more patience to see. Dave, I wish I was making more money. Dave, there's not enough time for marketing. Dave, if we could only, develop the team, or Dave, whatever. It's always about living in the gap, what we call living in the gap.
That's right.
And interesting enough, what we vocalize and we express the frustration around something that we do not have yet.
That's right.
Or there's not enough time, or we don't have enough this. And interesting enough, when it comes down to it, we look at what their calendar is and what activities they've scheduled and what their planning element is. And there's a bit of a mismatch. It's not necessarily it's incongruent.
That's right. 100%. Like one of the sayings that we have at Practice Acceleration, of which we have many, one is, the diary's the boss.
Yes. What gets scheduled gets done.
Yeah. Like if you want something to happen, it needs to actually be a priority. And to make it a priority, it needs to occupy space inside your calendar, right? Mm-hmm. So a really interesting thing that I hear is when we're interviewing members to come into our program, I often hear this, Tristan, I want to grow my business, but family's my priority. And I think that's really honorable and it's fantastic, and family should be your priority, right? But then I say, well, if families are your priority, can you please show me your calendar where you've got family time in your diary? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, what do you mean? That's crazy. I'm like, well, not really. Mm-hmm. Like, how much quality time do you want to have with your children? And they'll say, I'd like to have an hour a day. It's okay. Well, how much are you having right now? Like 15 minutes. I'm like, well, show me your calendar.
Yeah.
I can hold it up in front of me in Zoom and show the calendar. It's just white space.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, imagine if that is calendarized.
Yeah, absolutely. Because then it's organic and things get away with them. In other words, with the fact that, I will say it in my language here about being fact, the fact is that when you actually have something in your calendar, well, then you're kind of drawing a line in the sand and you're having more of a boundary to actually protect that one in time, So let's speak to, priority, which is family time. Well, yes. Family time might include, picking kids up from school, or picking kids to go into a sporting event, or it might be bath time sequence, where it's like reading them a story in bed,
right.
So, because you wanted to be there to cherish those memories and those moments. Well, actually having it in the calendar means that if anything else comes in, it's a bit of a force field. It's like saying no to something else, or saying no to an unhealthy distraction because you realigned what it is, what my focus is.
Exactly.
Because where attention goes, energy flows, results start to show.
Yes.
So the whole byproduct of being very true to your calendar is I know where in that moment of time, in that particular day, I'm putting attention into something and then energy naturally happens. And I really want to speak to this other point, Tristan, around this is too often members come and start working with us, our new clients start working with us, and they're constantly frustrated or exhausted by the fact that they're so busy. And there's a massive difference between being productive and being busy.
And effective.
And well, that's the point, isn't it? Because just because you're busy doesn't mean to say that you're busy doing what? Busy doing maybe things that are not actually effective or is going to move things forward.
Yeah.
You know, so absolutely. So, you know, when someone comes in and, you know, their calendar's either not full or full of the wrong stuff, they're just busy maybe somewhat doing the wrong thing at times.
So one thing I find really interesting, like we're talking about how if something's a priority, it needs to be in your calendar, right? Mm-hmm. And people find that concept very strange to start with, but we're really big on it. Like one of our mantras is the diary is the boss. What gets scheduled gets done.
Yes.
So if you think about this, like as for you guys listening, healthcare practice owners, you know, you see patients. You have a scheduled time where you see that patient.
Yes.
Right? Now, so we're valuing our patients. We're valuing the treatment of those patients. Therefore, there is a time set aside for them.
Yes.
Imagine if there was no time set aside for them.
Yeah.
Imagine if it was just, I'm going to be open between, you know, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. and patients will just attend.
Yes.
Like as someone viewing and listening to this, could you imagine what would happen? You might be going, well, Tristan, that's crazy. Absolutely, it is crazy. You would have no control over the outcome. There'd be no intentionality behind what you're doing. Yeah, I think about here at Practice Acceleration, we are all about helping amazing clinicians become amazing clinic owners. If you want to become an amazing clinic owner, there are certain skills, certain things that need to get done. But when people first come to us, what I'm seeing when I'm looking at their calendar is those things are not in the calendar.
Yep.
They happen as an afterthought. So let's say things that you need to work on your business, like our members, for example, we've got dedicated what we call business sprints, where they're working on their business during the week. And a non-negotiable for us is that your business sprint must be in work hours. It must be between, you know, if you're working 8 till 5 or 8 till 6 or whatever it happens to be, you do your business sprint happens within that time. It's not to happen after that time or before that time. And the reason for that is everyone says family's a priority. So we don't want to interfere with that calendar.
Yep.
We want that to be open for family.
Yeah, because if you do, it ends up resentment.
That's right.
Yep.
Exactly. I mean, you don't want your family to feel that they're becoming secondary to your business. Like that is not okay. And you said this, a great saying the other day, Dave, we don't believe in a balanced life. I do believe in a balanced life, but not in the way that people misinterpret that. We believe in an integrated life.
Yeah.
And that means that what you're doing is you're choosing what's important to you in your life and you're actually scheduling it out. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I want to speak to this point because what you might be thinking, if you're a naysayer, please stop following, stop listening. I don't want to hear from you. Go listen to someone else. But if you're a fan, you really love this. And thank you to you fans for listening and watching. Please make sure that you share this to your friends. We really appreciate you. We want to meet more people like you. What I want to say is you can have too much rigidity. We're not encouraging that. What we're saying is everything that's important to you in your life, put that into your calendar in a way that works for you.
Absolutely.
When you speak to that point, because we have to make this sustainable, right? And we don't want people to feel like they're operating with a lack of creativity, and we want them still to have some organic nature to what they're doing.
Yeah, well, rigidity is toxicity, flexibility is health.
Nice.
You know, what does that even mean? You know, well, it's been too rigid to the work-life balance. Or trying to, you know, people say to us, oh, Dave, but, you know, I work to this, I work to that, and the point I'm getting at, rigidity, toxicity, mean that people end up trying to squeeze a round peg into a square peg into a round hole. Whatever.
I never even know which way it goes.
Yeah, but
the shapes don't
round
work.
peg, square peg. In other words, you're trying to fit one thing into another thing that doesn't quite fit.
That's right.
You know, and you're wasting so much energy and time into something there when in fact there's maybe other ways of going about it. You know, but even to that point here about being more flexible, it's about being open to the idea of, you know, putting things into your diary and staying true to something. And then as a result, what comes to that is having really clear, healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
When to say no, when to prioritize. Even, for example, you know, the other day, we would speak about marketing, you know, about new patients and this feast of famine approach.
Yes.
You know, which is, if you're spending, you know, 1 week, you've had a great week and it's full of patients, you've had a run of bookings that have come through and you're spending a whole bunch of time treating.
Yeah.
And then the following week, you've got empty space and white calendar, which is quite costly.
Yeah.
And someone says, oh, but, you know, I have this ups and downs and some weeks is great and some weeks is not so great. And so, Dave, can you just, you know, we need to find a way to fix that problem. Well, I says, well, one of the first things that we need to put attention to is actually scheduling in time, even when, not because of, because here's a point here. Is, oh, well, Dave, I can't put time into my calendar this week for marketing activities and new patient acquisition because of the fact that we're training or we're so busy. So it's the rigidity of because of X.
Yes.
But instead, what it should be, Tristan, is, well, even when we've got a full patient caseload,
we still do this.
Even when X, we still got a time to do Y, and the even when still time to do Y is because we've got it scheduled in, it's prioritized, and we're also, and more importantly, it's prioritized. That even when we've got a full caseload, this, if we, for example, take an hour's time, and I don't know what each person's hour of time, what, $200-300 for that hour period of time? Well, it's like, well, yeah, and scaling upwards to thousands of someone's time,
That's right.
Depending on our dentists and vets and things like that people work with. But even if you had a 1 hour of time, which is for marketing activity, that's future growth. Well, if you replace that in the short-term thinking and being so rigid to go, well, I need that hour in order to have a transactional activity where I'm billing someone for my time and the service that I offer, versus actually saying no and having these really important sections in your diary, such as marketing activities. Well, how much more return of investment, how much more do you benefit from by actually having that regularly in your practice?
I think that just reminds me to a point you and I talk about a lot, which is, do things today that your future self will thank you for.
Love that.
So what can you do today that your future 90-day self will say, thank you, I'm really glad that you did that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say another point, you guys listening, your cash flow follows your calendar. So when you prioritize what matters and you actually put it in there, it gets done. And I remember when I was starting Practice Acceleration, and now we've got like a really wonderful team. We've really expanded, we're across 7 different nations now, 450 plus members inside our highest performing program, our biggest program, and we're the biggest in this space globally, which we're very proud of. But and we're constantly rising to that next level. But back in the day when I was starting, 15 years ago, even then, I went through this exercise and I realized for every hour I put into just dedicated on marketing, I knew that there'd be a future payoff. So I'd look at when I run a campaign, how many leads do we get from that? How many become a client? What do we earn from that? So what I started to do was going, well, for every hour of marketing, I'm earning $10,000. Whereas there's nothing else I could do in the business that would give me $10,000 for an hour's work.
Yeah.
And I think something that people overlook in the healthcare space, and perhaps you as you're listening right now, is perhaps you're reticent to give up an hour of time to work on your marketing or your team leadership or your management or your new implementing your new system, because it means if you're saying yes to that, what are you saying no to? So I want to challenge that and say, if you're saying yes to seeing patients all the time, or you're saying yes to doing the administration, or you're saying yes to whatever it happens to be you're doing right now, and you're saying no to that 1 hour of marketing time, and that's what we recommend. We recommend our clients work on their businesses for just 2 hours per week, right? Yeah. And it's just mapped out for them of what they need to work on. If you're saying no to that, well, you're saying no to that $10,000 hour. We see it time and time again when we give a client a done-for-you campaign, and it's like, oh, wow, I just got 20 leads. And we're like, yeah, you did. Let's take that from we talk about the 3 states, water, vapor, ice.
Yes.
Vapor being the most vague of the state, going, oh, I got a bunch of leads.
Yeah.
Water, which is more real, I've got a water here, I can dip my hand in it, I can feel it's cold,
yeah.
But I can't not in a safe way, at least throw it to you and you catch it and then you pass it around. It's going to start getting all over.
We're going to get wet.
Yeah, you're going to get wet and we're going to lose it, right? It's but water in this instance would be, I got 20 leads, right? But,
so it's leads, but then a bit more down.
Yeah, I got a few leads too. I got 20 leads. Yeah. And then ice, ice is the third state, you can hold it, you can feel it. I can throw it to you, you can catch it. Yeah, and you can pass it over to Dave or to Lena, and they're going to catch it as well and throw it back. Eventually it'll melt, right? Then anyway, the point I'm getting at is that third stage is tangible. So I want to make this tangible with your marketing. So we say to a client of ours, a member of our program, oh, you got 20 leads. That's fantastic. You converted 20 leads. What's the pipeline value of that? Yep. Let's make it real. So we look at, well, when our members treat that type of patient, what would be the financial remuneration for treating that patient in their entirety to get an exceptional healthcare outcome? And they'll come out with a number. They'll have this type of treatment, this type of program, this type of service, this type of product, and there'll be an amount attached, right?
That's right.
And typically it'll be around $800 plus per patient. ranging up to like $10,000 plus for our dental clients, doing a lot of cosmetic work and so forth.
Of course.
But imagine, so if you sit and it was 1 hour and you get 20 leads and that's worth $16,000. That's a $16,000 hour.
That's right.
Right? But you cannot get that growth unless you dedicate the time to it.
Absolutely.
So when people say to me, oh, I do value marketing, I'm like, prove it. Like listening to a podcast in a car, thank you guys for listening to us. But if that's all you do, that's entertainment or that's infotainment.
Yeah.
That's not actually application. That's not really valuing. Like that's dabbling, right? Like I'm going to the gym later on today, and I can tell you when, because it's in my calendar. Let's have a look. I'm going to the gym at 2:30 today, right? And in case I forget, I'm doing lunch at 1 o'clock. These things are in my calendar, right? Right now I'm doing podcast recording and coffee. Which I'm really glad we introduced the coffee to the podcast.
I like it.
Because now we get to two of my great loves.
That's right. We should do it more often.
I think we will. Yeah. Maybe we do a whiskey and podcast.
Oh, that would, maybe not in the morning. Maybe
be dangerous.
Yes.
Yes. 12:30. All right.
Yes.
The point I'm getting at is when you prioritize something, it actually has to be in your calendar.
Yes.
Or it's not going to get done. We want to set ourselves up for success. There's like a really great book by Benjamin Hardy who I really like, and it's Willpower is Not Enough. It's that we only have so much willpower. And willpower is kind of suffering. It's like, I've got to remember, I've got to do this. It's like going against the grain.
Yep.
But the greats of business know that when you want to get something done, set yourself up for success. Just put it in the calendar. Don't over calendarize yourself. Come at it from the right frequency. So I think like if we're prioritizing marketing, put it in the calendar. If you want your team to do better, put that in your calendar. But the time you spend training the team. You and I have got time dedicated to team daily.
Absolutely.
You know, we've got time dedicated to management.
Yes.
And so if I said to you, Dave, what do you value? You'd be able to pull out your calendar and show that.
Absolutely.
You work with your kids in a football sense.
That's right.
I bet that the training is in your calendar.
Absolutely. Well, that's where we speak to the point of it being integrated. So this comes down to what we believe in, and if you're listening here and you believe this to be true, it's okay, but try it on, which is, I don't believe in the whole, you've got to work and then you shut off work, or it's like too absolute. You know, I like to live in the grey a little bit. It's not black, it's white, it's grey. And what do I mean by that? Well, it's about being able to
50 Shades of Grey?
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know.
A little bit different? Okay.
Yeah.
Different. That's a different podcast.
Yes, sorry. Absolutely. So when I mean integration, it's absolutely in the calendar. It's like, so I'm here with you, and when I'm here with you, I'm fully immersed.
Yeah.
And when I'm all in on something that's really focused. But then also there's different parts of the day where, I love to, there's the volunteering once a week that lights myself up. There's coaching my son in football, that's in the calendar. There's certain points where I'm working maybe in a particular thing at evening time, which is all good because I'm choosing to do that. But prior to that, I've had my cup filled up because I blocked off the time.
That's right.
In which to make sure that certain things are taken care of. Block off obviously certain time for lunch once a week because it's something I like to do with other people. So absolutely, I think what gets scheduled gets done, and where your attention goes, energy flows, results show.
Yeah.
But even just speaking to that point about even the pipeline value, when you actually go to make that marketing a priority, when you actually look at the value of which you're actually bringing, then the perception of the value of that task also increases.
That's right. No, that's such a good point. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
A mentor of mine, it was a couple of years ago now, what he made me do was go through my calendar and look at like itemizing my day and then putting a dollar value attached to each item. And he's like, well, that is your capacity right now based on where your tasks are going. And I looked at it and I wasn't happy with that. I was like, well, that's not going to hit our vision. So, what he said to me was, all right, well, if you want to get the growth that you want, we need to be focused on these high value tasks. And in order to do that, we need to put them into your calendar at the right frequency. And we need to make sure you're not overbooked because you need to have that creativity. But we're going to focus you like 80-20, like genius space. Yeah. Right? We just need me to be focused on what $10,000 hours where I'm doing that. So we do that, then we're hitting the goals. And what we need to do is make sure, well, what is it I'm doing right now that I've outgrown? So perhaps as you're listening to this right now, maybe your calendar right now is full of things that are no longer a priority that they've held on to.
Yep.
Do you see a lot of that, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. To give them a bit of a tactic and practice here, because, well, first of all, you've got to identify what's important to you. What's the priority? But even just things, what's important? If I take two things, Tristan, and we talk about urgency,
yes,
and we talk about importance,
yes,
and we talk about the combinations, if it's important that task is done by you and it's really urgent, then you've got to do it. You've got to schedule it you got to get into your calendar, but it's got to be done. It's got to be done fairly quickly.
Yes.
But let's take the next combination, which is, let's say it's important that it's done by us, but it's not necessarily urgent. Well, we can look ahead in our schedule and actually time block when we can get that done at a time that suits us, and we put it ahead. And this is the thing where I think too many of our members, and even probably future listeners, are really holding on to, is the other combinations where it's not important that it's done by us, but yet it's still in the calendar.
Gotcha.
Well, if it's not important to be done by us,
get it out,
and it's urgent to do, then we just delegate it and put it in someone else's calendar.
So that's a really good point. So if we're sharing with our listeners and our viewers today, what would be a couple of action steps to actually start making sure that their calendars are full of valuable activities? So one was identify if it's important, but it's not important that you do it, then what do?
Then we get it into someone else's calendar. Yeah, so if it's important to be done if it's not important done by us, but it's urgent to be done, then we've got to delegate that and put that into someone else's calendar. So A, it's out of ours.
Yes.
But B, it's in someone else's. Now, here's another thing.
But it's still going in the calendar.
It's still going in the calendar because what gets scheduled gets done.
That's right.
It's just not done by you.
I'm going to put in my calendar for next time a note to turn off the coffee machine before we start the podcast recording, because that was what was happening in the background there. So I'm going to calendarize that for next time.
Yes.
So if you're taking something out of your calendar and you want someone else to do it, it's got to go on their calendar.
Yes. And if it's not important or urgent to be done by anyone, we just got to get it out of everyone's calendar.
Just eliminate it.
Eliminate it altogether, And I think if it's important and urgent done by us, we do it, but we do it straight away. It's like, eat that frog, get it done.
I'm going to play devil's advocate for a moment, if that's okay.
Sure.
So I'm just getting inside the mind of the listener, and perhaps you're thinking this, and I want to help you, which is why I'm coming up with this point. You're thinking, all right, well, if I'm to actually focus on what I need to do, who's going to do all the other things that are important? They're not important that I do them, but I don't know where to put them. Is that a matter of just hiring someone?
Yeah, well, that comes down to the speak of, well, who's my who?
The who, not the how.
The who, not the how. And who's to say that that's a person you have internally? It might actually be someone that you can outsource externally on a project by project basis. A lot of our members right now are actually learning the process that we're teaching them for our valuable frameworks on how to actually use outside help, such as freelancers or
virtual assistants,
etc. Therefore, it not only is it valuable from a cost perspective, but they don't have all the hassles of actually having that full-time person in. They just have that certain person that can allow. We're also sharing things like apps and other strategies along the
could be a technology that could do it for you, or could be another person that could do it for you, and doesn't necessarily need to be in-house. It could be someone outside of your office or even overseas.
Yes,
we've got that geo arbitrage.
It's always a solution.
Yeah,
there's always a solution. And I think to the point being not only that framework that people can choose, because people relate to different points. Which one am I doing most? And the common mistake that people are having is they're not delegating and they're not dumping, meaning the things that are staying in their calendar that's keeping them busy but not productive.
Delegate, dump, diarize.
Yes, and do.
Oh, four Ds.
And do. That's it.
What else can we add in there? Can't think of another D. No. Duplicate. No, I don't want to duplicate. We're going to stick with the 4 Ds for now.
Well, if you do those 4, then you'll dominate.
Dominate. Nice.
That's it. So dominate your future and dominate your productivity. And
I love that.
So forth. Yes, but I think it's really, really clear. I think as a takeaway point, those are some of the tactics and tactics. But when it comes to it, we've really got to prioritize, what actually matters.
Yes.
So some of the things would be prioritize your marketing, prioritize your health, prioritize your finances.
Yes.
Prioritize your management, prioritize your training. And, as we start to get this list, people might start to go, oh my God, that's so many, the list is never ending. Well, it's not about being busy, it's about being productive. And you'll find is that just even, half hour or 45 minutes of time of dedicated focus into that point and being really intentional around that spot will allow you to tick all the boxes that you need inside your business and allow you to still moving forward. Like I said, even when, not because of.
That's right. I love that. So we obviously only speak with clinic owners.
Yes.
And I'm just thinking to that point right now, if I was to look at your calendar as a clinic owner right now, would that tell me you're a clinic owner or would that tell me you're a clinician? And I think that's like you're caught in this duality of role. And if you want to become a clinic owner, the actual actions in there need to reflect more clinic owner more so than clinician, right?
That's right.
So, your calendar really does reveal where your priorities are.
That's right. So, and where your future priorities are going to be too.
Yeah.
Because if you want things you've never had, you've got to be prepared to do things you've not quite done yet.
Exactly. And you don't need to know the how, you just need to find the right who.
That's right.
Which is why people find us. Like, they don't know how to get unstuck, or they don't know how to make these changes to their calendar, or what should even be in there. They find the right who that does that to outsource the thinking and to outsource that mental load so they can focus simply on the application.
Absolutely. And then they go faster.
Yeah. Well, success loves speed.
It certainly does.
Perfect. Well, this has been a really invaluable podcast. I think if you're listening to this, hopefully this has been incredibly powerful for you, and also very practical to make some shifts. So please make sure, if you haven't done so yet, please subscribe. If you're watching this online, please give us a like and a share, and make sure you tag in some friends so that you feel this will be really valuable for as well, because that way we can spread the word and we can make sure our message reaches more people, and that's our vision. How to turn more clinicians into clinic owners, because when we create more clinic owners, then what's happening is we're actually helping more patients globally, and we're raising the standards of healthcare, and everyone in society benefits from that. So guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you so much, Dave. I appreciate you
having me.
I'll see you guys inside the next episode. Bye for now. Buonasera. Ciao, ciao. Whatever that chair. Tschüss.